So I like to make things from scratch. In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about why and why I think it's a good thing. The Industrial Revolution has brought us so many priceless gifts. For example, the fact that clothes are suddenly cheap. I get most of my clothes at a thrift shop in town and I pay $3 a shirt. Now $3 is less than half of minimum wage. And so I could get 2 shirts an hour working the cheapest job I could find. How is that possible? Having done a little bit of spinning and a little bit of weaving and a little bit of all these crafts, I have some sense of how much effort it used to take to make these things outside of the mercantile factory system that we now live in, where we exchange money and we hyper-specialize in our careers and we use capital in order to build these large structures that are able to make cheap stuff. And it's awesome. Now, it is awesome, but there is a thread that I've noticed which irritates me. And I think it's one of the reasons why I want to learn how to rebuild civilization from scratch, and why I want to learn all the skills that it would take to make my own clothes from scratch, and to make iron from scratch, and to learn how to blacksmith, and to learn how to do all of these things that it would take to make all of our civilization right down to from scratch from dirt. After all, everything is made of dirt. If you want to see that video, check right here. Now, here's my reasoning. Right now, I don't know how to make my own clothes beyond the very basics. And so if the people who make clothes for me, far across the world or nearby, were not able to or decided not to, I would have no clothes. I'm in a position of dependence because I cannot provide them myself. Similarly with grocery stores. Right now, I don't choose whether to go to the grocery store. That's not optional. I need to eat in order to stay alive. I choose which grocery store to go to. So the choice of whether or not to go to the grocery store, not optional. The choice of which one, okay, I have some freedom. But I want that extra layer of freedom. If I am capable of making my own groceries from scratch, if I have a garden plot, and I'm a good enough gardener to provide my own food, then even if I don't make the food, my choice to go to the grocery store changes in its essence. I'm no longer choosing which grocery store to go to. I'm choosing whether to go to the grocery store, because I am able to consciously decide whether or not that's something I want to do. For this reason, I think that there is also a qualitative difference between the first generation that adopts this technology and then all the generations after that. We traveled to the moon. The space programs were done on these enormous computers with so little computing power that your cell phone outperforms them by hundreds of times. And they also did it with slide rules. Now, slide rules are cool because they require a little bit more skill to use than a calculator. They require you to hold a number of numbers in your head and that you use the slide rule as an aid to your ability to do math. But it doesn't do the math for you. And so when the engineers who were using slide rules and these ancient, massive computers upgraded to using more high-tech computers, as this generation got the new tech, they were in a unique position. Because if the computer for some reason went down, they were capable of doing it the old way. There's a difference there. Every generation after them that never learned how to use the slide rules in the old boxy computers is in a position where if the computers go down, they can't do the problem. Now, that interests me. I'm not a doomsday prepper. I don't think that some calamity is going to happen, but I like the feeling of freedom that comes from extending my choices from which to whether. I want to choose not just which grocery store to go to, but whether. And I may decide that it's better to just go to the grocery store. In fact, I probably will. It's cheap, it's good, it's nice. I like pineapple. I can't grow pineapple myself in my climate. And I will continue to buy clothes, probably. But knowing that I can is a qualitative difference. One way that I've articulated this idea is that I want to learn the skills of independence so that I can make the list of people who can hurt me by doing nothing as short as possible. I want to make myself impervious to siege. The old military concept of surrounding somebody and cutting them off from their supplies. In a siege, the thing that saves you is not really your walls. Your walls are your first line of defense just to keep the threats out. But the thing that really saves you is the size of your pantry. and or the size of the garden and well on the inside of the keep. If you're able to get food from the inside, then you can last for forever, hypothetically, or at least until the people on the outside run out of food. That's my reason for wanting to know this. And as I'm looking at crafts from this angle, I am very aware of key points, places where there's a piece that I can't get around, that I need somebody else for. For example, in trying to willow wool from a previous video, I was trying to learn how to process wool so that you can spin it into fiber without using carding cloth. Carding cloth is interesting because it's made out of tons of tiny little metal needles, and these metal needles have to be manufactured by somebody who can make high precision cloth with a bunch of evenly spaced tiny metal needles, which of course requires the technology for metal and all the rest of it. And so suddenly, in order to spin using this method, you also have to be able to run a factory that makes little metal needles. And so that doesn't get me back to basics enough to really master the craft. What I want to learn how to do is how to push this technique all the way back to the Stone Age in an unbroken line so that I can own it. And at that point, spinning will be a part of me. Similarly with iron making. The funny thing about blacksmithing today that makes it so different from blacksmithing in any other generation is that we have ridiculous access to massive quantities of extremely high quality metal in scrap yards for free. If you want, you can go find leaf springs from cars and old scrap bits here and there that are extremely high quality, homogeneous steel that's ready to go. This is the kind of stuff the blacksmiths used to just agonize over how to minimize how much steel went into it, which is why they had really narrow tangs and partial tangs and all these other considerations that were designed to minimize how much metal went into a piece. Metal was valuable in a crazy way. A modern blacksmith like myself, if I want metal, I can just run down to the dump, pick up a couple of pieces of really good stuff, and it's more or less an endless supply. But I want to be in a position where I choose whether to go to that scrap pile, because I'm capable of doing it from the raw ingredients straight out of the mountain. But once again, having that knowledge is valuable even if every time thereafter I do choose to go to this junk pile to get some of that scrap iron. Anyway, these are just some thoughts. This is what I call the what-whether distinction in terms of choices. I want to be free in terms of whether I do something, not just in terms of which one I choose. If you're interested in philosophy and also getting back to basics and occasionally the fusion of the two, then please subscribe below to our channel Good and Basic, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.